Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Good morning, good afternoon, and I'm honored but saddened to stand here with so many who are mourning the lives of brothers and sisters in Nigeria who lost their lives with a hateful act stemming from intolerance and bigotry. I stand here with my co-chair of the Nigerian Caucus, Steve Shabbat, as well as other champions of human rights, including Emmanuel Ogabi, international human rights lawyer and fighter for religious freedom. He's been an advocate for 30 years, and he works with the US Nigeria group. We're honored and privileged to have him. We'll introduce our other guests shortly, but we're delighted to have Dr. Professor Fola Sorimka and as well Dr. Elizabeth Sorimka. They're founders of the Highlands Education International and others that are supporting them today. I have a long history in Nigeria. I'm a friend of Nigeria. As a student, I went to school at the University of Nigeria at Lagos and Ibadan. Had many family, friends, traveled the beautiful country. I have great hopes and dreams for Nigeria, but I'm linked to this country and I'm a patriot. And in this country, the Declaration of Independence says that we all are created equal with certain inalienable rights of life and liberty in the pursuit of happiness. I said that on the floor of the House today. Our Constitution says that even though it was imperfect, by persons like me were not a whole person and women were not equal, still it said that we organized the United States to create a more perfect union. And in our Bill of Rights, the very First Amendment says the freedom of religion. Democracy stands on the four corners of freedom of religion. And I might add, for those listening, it is a freedom not to have religion, but it protects you from violence to pour you apart. Just this month on June 19th, in our country, Juneteenth, a day of freedom and liberation, 2 churches in the northwest region of Nigeria were attacked, where many were kidnapped and many were murdered while they were simply trying to worship in peace. I remember around the Chibok girls when we went to northern Nigeria, Abuja, and we talked to families, and we listened to stories where husband and wife was decapitated, shot dead, murdered, just because they had a different faith, in this instance, Christianity. On June 5th, during another attack on a Catholic church in the Southwest, more than 40 were killed in an attack that took place during a mass, leaving so many families mourning their loved ones and trying to make sense of this senseless attacks. In the past 17 months, more than 30 pastors have been kidnapped or murdered across Nigeria, and according to the Open Doors World Watch list, more than 4,650 Christians were murdered in 2021. Enough is enough. Let me also say that Muslims have been murdered, people of other faiths. Remember what I said, the freedom of religion, to be safe and secure in your faith. That is the basic underpinnings of a democracy, of a country that wants to show itself to be a humanitarian. The number of people murdered or kidnapped in Nigeria simply because of their chosen faith is expected to rise throughout the year, and it shows no signs of slowing. These murders of Nigerian Christians are not where the violence ends. There have also been attacks on the LGBTQ community and others that have been beaten because of their circumstances. My heart breaks for the tragedy that so many Nigerians have experienced, for the many who no longer feel safe even when they're going into church to worship and pray. Unfortunately, this fear is something that many Americans can relate to as well. 7 years ago, we know in this country we have had our challenges. But when people have been murdered in churches, we have come together. The government has condemned it, and they've stood in the way to stop it and say that it is not America. The act of terror sent a ripple effect through our nation, and we garnered and came together. We prayed together. I want to see the nation of Nigeria stand up to the world and say they're fighting against this violence and the killing of people who are worshiping only because they have a faith that is different than mine, Catholic or of many other Christian faiths. We must be constructive and proactive. They need our support. These senseless attacks on the religious freedom must stop. We cannot afford to lose another brother, sister, another child. We cannot afford to see decapitation, the bleeding in the streets, our hearts and prayers are with the victims of this atrocious incident. We must raise our voices in solidarity with victims in Nigeria, just as we do the victims here in the United States. I am very pleased of my long-standing co-chair of the Nigerian Caucus, who has stood with me in supporting Nigeria, fighting for its survival and its economic stability, but has not shied away together for condemning it for these heinous acts. And so we announced today that we'll be introducing a resolution of condemnation for the acts against the people of Nigeria, myself and co-chair Chabot of Ohio, where we will articulate the killings, the attacks against children, and we will speak to the issue of democracy and freedom and the protection of innocent people. And yes, we will engage with the Senate to assure that the appropriate response, sanctions, world condemnation, engagement in the United Nations, to ensure that we provide some way for these people's lives to be secure. That they worship in a church and they leave the church free and safe. That their children are taught a religion that so many Nigerians practice here in the United States, Christianity. And I do not speak against any other faith. All faiths should be protected. And I stand here as the representative of the largest number of Nigerians in the nation, and that is the city of Houston. I'm delighted to have a partner in believing in freedom of religion and the protection of the people in Nigeria. And I ask now that Congressman Steve Chabot comes forward.
Thank you very much, Sheila. I appreciate your words, and certainly agree with all of them. We're, as Sheila mentioned, we're co-chairs of the Congressional Nigerian Caucus and have been for quite a few years now. And the increase in violence that we've seen in Nigeria recently, and in particular the horrific attacks over the past couple of months, are absolutely unconscionable. Violence, particularly bloodshed and outright murder, is horrific and unacceptable wherever it takes place. But when it takes place in a church or a religious location, that's particularly outside the bounds of a civilized society. And I'm particularly appalled by the terrorist attack at the Pentecost that killed so many so many people. I believe it was St. Francis Xavier Church that the killings took place. And this is such an outrage to humanity that it's almost unspeakable what happened to these people. Boko Haram has been a scourge to the country for a long time now, as we all know, and a lot of the world paid close attention to the girls that were abducted some years back. But today, and unfortunately, this is getting less attention than those horrific Boko Haram attacks did. Nigeria faces a more complex challenge. It's widespread violence, consisting in large part by Fulani herders who have perpetrated ethnic and religious violence against their fellow citizens. Again, the violence is unacceptable and horrific, whether it has a religious involvement or not, but this does have a religious involvement, and that's why it's particularly outside the bounds of a civilized society. Let me be blunt. The Buhari government must put a stop to this violence. It's their responsibility. As far as I'm aware, since the attack on Pentecost, the government hasn't identified any suspects yet. Willfully turning a blind eye to the problem is entirely unacceptable. After all, the basic function of a government is to provide security for its citizens. And unfortunately, that's not happening in Nigeria today. Now, Nigeria is a very important country, and it's critical to our interests, the United States' interests, to the United States for so many reasons. The U.S. needs to be a whole lot more engaged on the human rights situation there. It absolutely has to. The State Department needs to up their game. For example, I think it was a mistake to delist Nigeria as a country of particular concern for religious freedom just last year. and blaming climate change for what is a complex problem with religious and ethnic dimensions, in my view, is just ham-handed, but that's what the State Department did. So I want to thank Congresswoman Jackson Lee for her leadership and for holding this important event today and bringing attention to the challenges that are faced by so many innocent people in Nigeria today. And I stand ready to work with her, as we have so many times, with respect to Nigeria on this legislation. And we need to actually do something. We need to get the State Department involved. We need both the administration and our congressional colleagues on both sides of the aisle. This, as you can see, is bipartisan. Sheila is a Democrat. I'm a Republican. And another thing we have in common is we were actually elected originally the same year. There were 73 Republican freshmen and only 12 Democrats that year. It was a pretty good Republican year. Of those 73 Republicans, there's only one left, and that's me. Now, of the 12 Democrats, there are 4 left. Fortunately, one of them is Sheila.
Yes.
And we've worked together. We've also worked on opposite sides of a lot of issues, but we've always done it with respect. But this is one issue that we're united on, and that's getting the government there to actually do what it's supposed to do to protect its people, and also have our allies in the Congress and the administration do what it's supposed to do, and that's help a key ally of ours to stop this horrific violence that's being perpetrated on so many innocent people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. As Congressman Chavez said, human rights and the protection of religious freedom is not a partisan issue. It is an American issue. It's Republicans and Democrats and others. And that's what we're showing here today, and I thank him very much. We want to beat the rain. So we're going to ask our good friends, we want to hear Dr. Fola Sorimkam, who is a octogenarian, born in Nigeria, came to the United States to attend college in 1956 and earned his PhD in history from Northwestern. He married Dr. Elizabeth Wallace, found Highlands in 1982, began building the school in 2006 with operations in 2009 in Northeast Nigeria. He retired from 50 years of teaching history at colleges and universities across America, Africa, and other parts. He is a quintessential educator. Dr. Fola is the author of numerous scholarly works, and recently including American Boy, A Life Inspired by American Ideals. He currently resides in Taraba State, Nigeria. Would you come forward, Doctor, for a brief word? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honor you.
All we want is just peace. We have in our school, Highlands Education International in Gembu, we have Muslims and Christian children going to school together in an atmosphere of peace. That's what we want to keep going on in the country. We teach them to respect one another, and we are continuing this. It has been for so many years now that in many other parts, including our part, which is the Northeast, we've lost almost 1,000 teachers. It goes against education. So we just want peace in the country. And we are fairly lucky where we are because we are on top of a hill. It's not easy for Boko Haram to get to us, but the rest of our colleagues don't have that situation. So we just pleading, give us peace in Nigeria. Let the teachers be able to teach the children to love one another because they belong to the same country. That is all we are wanting for our country at this time. And I hope that the United States will help us any way they can. And you, all of you looking, will help us also so that we can really bring peace to a good country. The people of Nigeria are good, but we need leadership to help make things better for all of us. That's all I ask in my old age. So I can go to my grave and be sure that I've done the best I can for my country. Thank you very much.
We honor you. We honor you. Thank you so very much, Doctor, for the strength. He just said murder, decapitation. He just said children in schools, both Muslims and Christians. It can be done. And I think the important point that I want to join in my colleague, we have not seen or heard of Buhari understanding the importance of protecting the people against Boko Haram. We started with Boko Haram with the horrific capturing and kidnapping and loss of life of the Chibok girls, and it has continued in a rage so reckless that you get churches and homes. Boko Haram has no boundaries for who they kill, when they kill, why they kill. They must be contained. And we know that these are boys being recruited because nothing is being done in the north. The government must find relief to take these boys out of the claws of Boko Haram. They cannot find that as their only life. It is impossible. We now ask for Elizabeth Soricum, who has been alongside Dr. Soricum's side. She graduated from Chavez High School, Aberdeen, Valedictorian, 1963, with a dream to become a missionary. She has a long history of service and ultimately earned a PhD. And so she's taught in the US, Zambia, Nigeria for many years. And she too is a leader in HEI.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. We have, as we said earlier, Highlands Education International, which is HEI. I brought along a brochure and also a diagram of what is going on there at the moment. We have three schools, a preschool, a primary school, and a secondary school. And we invite all of you, and we will leave all of these materials with Dr. Lee for all of you. Thank you.
We are going to beat that deadline. Emmanuel Obi, my friend, international human rights lawyer, and all the ones who are looking for help for Deborah Samuel and Leah, we want to know that we are standing with you, and those rest in peace Pentecost Day massacre victims, and USA, don't deny Nigerian Christians. There is genocide. We are with you. Please go forward. Thank you.
All right, I will be very, very brief. Just last week, two of the schoolgirls who were abducted 8 years ago by terrorists came back from captivity. And sadly, despite coming back after 8 years, people who went to church on Pentecost Day to worship never went back home. 40 people were slaughtered in St. Francis. Another 32 people in Ekwa Church in Kaduna were killed. In 1 week, over 120 Christians were slaughtered. The amazing thing about this travesty was a US delegation from USEF was in the country while all of these atrocities occurred. But the State Department will not listen to a US government agency that is reporting the truth to them. This is the travesty that we see, that the State Department is a modern day Holocaust denier, refusing to acknowledge the bloodshed of innocents in Nigeria. I want to highlight one quick point as we wrap up because of the rain, which is the Pentecost Day attack in Southern Kaduna in the northwest of Nigeria was assisted by an Air Force helicopter of the Nigerian Air Force. And the travesty of this is that same week, the US Air Force and the Nigerian Air Force had a safety exercise in Nigeria. And then they went out and they killed Nigerian Christians. And so we're calling on the United States government to demand from Nigeria the video from that helicopter operation to determine whether the Nigerian government really shot the terrorists as they claim, although no terrorist bodies were found, or whether they shot the Christian worshippers, 32 of whom are now dead. Secondly, the US is saying that they want Nigeria to buy another squadron of aircraft. Before they do that, we want Nigeria to allow an international investigation of the 12 fatal incidents that have occurred with the Nigerian Air Force in the bombings of innocent citizens, including children and IDPs, that have occurred in the past 4 years. Until we understand why the Nigerian Air Force is killing its own citizens, they can't be entrusted with more airplanes. And so today, we want to commend Congresswoman Sheila Jackson and Congressman Chabot for standing with the victims of this genocide that's going on in Nigeria at a time when everyone's attention is deflected to Ukraine. More worshippers have been killed in Nigeria in the last 5 weeks than have been killed in Ukraine in the last 4 months of that war. And we need to understand that just because it's not on the news and just because it's not before NATO doesn't mean it's not happening and that bloodshed is not occurring in Nigeria on a daily basis. Just last week in my village, in my hometown of Benue, they attacked and killed over a dozen people on Sunday morning just as they were going to mass. So in 1 week, we had 3 major atrocities against Christians in 3 different states in Nigeria. And this has got to stop. And so again, I would commend the congresswoman who, she says she's a friend of Nigeria, but I want to say that she's a daughter and a mother of Nigeria. And it's really interesting that the congresswoman was a Fulbright scholar in Nigeria at the same time that Professors Shermeku were professors at a university in Nigeria. That was a golden age of education and relations between the US and Nigeria, where Americans flocked to Nigeria to go to school. But today in Nigeria, terrorists are flocking to schools and killing students and abducting them. We are going backwards, not forwards, and the time has come for that to change. We're going to call out the US government because they can't see genocide in Ukraine that just happened 4 months ago and say no genocide in Nigeria that has been going on for a dozen years. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense except for the fact that the people in Ukraine look more like them than I do, than we do. But let's remember that the color of genocide is red, and we both, white or black, share the same color of blood. And the time has come for the world to stand up and do the right thing by the Christians of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. We can appreciate the passion. As a member of the Ukraine Caucus, let me reiterate the importance of fighting for democracy in the war in Ukraine, but we cannot step away that blood is blood and that we are a nation large enough to embrace all of the fight for democracy and saving lives, and that includes Nigeria. And I think that's what Congressman Chabot and I stand for, is that we want to stop the bloodshed in Nigeria, and we want to also have the Buhari government to stand up against this bloodshed. I will take 1 or 2 questions and then we'll read to it. Thank you.
Yes, Congresswoman. You know, the introduction of a condemnation is well and good, but you hear from the people that they would like the State Department to do more. They would like the United Nations to do more. Are you going to see to it that happens with the State Department?
We, with the Congressman and myself, will be engaging with all of the elements from the UN, which we have the ability to do, to the State Department, and a number of other international aid organizations will be approached about what is happening to the Nigerian people who are being killed because of their religious beliefs.
What could be done? Sanctions or penalties?
I think we will have to engage. Certainly everyone knows that sanctions have to be issued by the particular government. We are a sovereign government. The United States has issued sanctions before, but it's a process that we as members of Congress can advocate for. I want the strongest response, but here's what I want. I want what Dr. Fola said: peace, for people to learn and to practice their religion, and whoever is responsible for making sure that gets done without excuses needs to do it. And it falls at the feet of the Nigerian government. You can be assured that they will be hearing from us. Yes.
Hi, Doug Burton with Catholic News Agency. Congresswoman, thank you for taking up this issue. As you probably know, Mr. Ogebi knows, on May 12, Deborah Emanuel was killed, and there were 50 uniformed civilian policemen there who did not intervene. They had a chance several times to rescue her, and they kept their position. Is that right, Mr. Ogebi? So will you call for an investigation, maybe from international authorities?
I'm going to get briefed about Deborah. It is publicly I offer my deepest sympathy to an unnecessary killing. and we should consider her as the necessary tragic vehicle that we raise our ire and our concern to get the facts about her circumstance. And we will assure you that we will do that. Thank you so very much. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.